Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Question of the Day with me, Femi. So, as you can see, Fumi's not here right now. She's a little preoccupied, but obviously that's not going to stop the show. And she will be there tonight in our Zoom call. So, if y'all were looking for her, just know she'll be there. But I wanted to continue to build on the question that we both left you guys with in regards to, the kingdom of God. We were able to bring you guys, two parables in regards to the kingdom of God. And I wanted you guys to kind of take those parables in and now try to understand it in the context of the times that we live in. Because, when we talk about, things like dragnets and stuff, like, it's not really terms that we use today, but, in the conversation that you guys had with PR, I'm sure that it was more about understanding these parables in today's terms. And he kind of left you guys with a homework that I'm even looking forward to hearing, like how you guys were able to, basically use the same pattern of a parable to describe what the kingdom of God is like today. But that's going to be a good discussion tonight in our Zoom call. But I wanted to talk to you guys now today in regards to the next question of the day, which is how do you seek the kingdom of God? So before I even go a little further in the question, one of the things that Christ did in the parables that he was saying in regards to the kingdom of God, that the two that I talked about last time, they were specific. If you guys know the meaning behind it, like what Christ was trying to convey to us, it talked about the kingdom of God, but it talked about a specific aspect of the kingdom of God. And for those two parables in particular, it was talking about one aspect of the kingdom of God when it came to basically the breadth of the kingdom of God, how large it is, how encompassing it is, like the dragnet, how basically once that net is cast, like the amount of things that are gathered within that dragnet, like that was something that Christ was trying to emphasize upon. When we talked about the yeast and the bread, how basically that it's with that the bread is able to like expound to even be larger. So but now there are other parables that I'm gonna talk about right now that Christ talked about. He was talking about the kingdom, but now he's talking about a different aspect of the kingdom of God. And I feel like understanding this aspect helps with being able to understand the question of the day, which is how do you seek the kingdom of God? So let's turn to Matthew chapter 13. Yes, chapter 13, starting from verse 44. So I'm going to read this one. This is the first parable. So Christ said, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure that is buried in the field, that a man found, and he reburied it. Then in his joy, he goes and sells everything he has, and he buys that field." So here, Christ said the kingdom of God is like a treasure. This is completely, now, if you put it in line with the dragnet, I'm sure some people's first response is like, how do those things go together? But like I said, he's talking about a different aspect of the kingdom of God. Like this is something else he's talking about, and he uses treasure in order to kind of convey that so that people can understand it. So imagine, you have a treasure so good that once it was found, you reburied it, and then in your joy of finding that treasure, you bought the entire land that treasure was in. What does that mean? So here, based on your understanding of that, try to use that to answer the question, what does it mean to seek the kingdom of God? Like, actually I have a couple more, there are two more. In verse 45, he says again, "The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. When he found one priceless pearl, he went and he sold everything he had and bought it. So it's like now he's using the merchant and the pearl, and it goes along the same lines of that treasure that was found, and doing everything, selling everything in order to get this treasure, get this pearl. And the final one that I had in terms of that was in verse 52 of the same chapter, where he says, "Therefore, he said to them, every teacher of the law who has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like an owner of a house who brings out his storeroom treasures, new and old." So now we're still continuing this theme of treasures, pearls. So these like things that are of value to an individual. And one of the things that I wanted you guys to emphasize, to kind of point out, to help with this question today too, is like, when we talk about seeking the kingdom of God, now think about those first two parables specifically. A treasure, a buried treasure. How is a buried treasure like found? Because usually when it comes to buried treasure, you think of a map, you think of X marks the spot, and usually a person who finds that map is like, that treasure has to be sought out. That treasure, like, you made the decision that, hey, based on what this map is telling me and this X, like, I'm expecting that this treasure, I'm looking for this treasure, And in the same way, it said the man was in search of fine pearls in the second parable. Like, there's an action that's taking place in order to receive this treasure that is out there. So, with that, now it's like, okay, the kingdom of God. Now it's like, when Christ says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you." So that seeking out is the same action that he's talking about in reference to, these parables. So when I ask you guys the question of the day, what does it mean to seek out the kingdom of God? Based on how you understand, what you understand the kingdom of God to be, if you fully understand it, now it's like, how is that kingdom being sought out? How do you seek that kingdom out daily? So this is a deep question to ask. I mean, there's probably like some quick go-to answers that you could probably think of, like, oh, how I can seek the kingdom. But I feel like, here's where we need to like truly understand like what Christ is trying to convey, because I don't even think it's not that type of a question where, you can just give like a generic answer to, because there is something specifically that Christ is trying to get to us to understand, knowing what the kingdom of God is, especially based on the discussion that you guys probably had last time, in understanding even just the breadth of the kingdom, the all-encompassing nature of the kingdom of God, and what it means to even be in the kingdom of God. So it's like, how is that sought out? How do you seek that so that everything else will be added to you? What is everything else? So you guys have to kind of like read the entirety of that specific context of what was being said. I think it was Matthew chapter 6, where Christ was talking about as far as seeking first the kingdom of God. Yeah. So let's kind of like chew on that. I want you guys to kind of read over that as you prepare to go into this conversation tonight and our question of the day, because I want us to really understand like what it means to seek the kingdom of God, to seek that treasure, and like how do we make that practical? We always try to come to the point in our conversation of making it practical. So it's like, how is it sought out? Was it sought out? So yeah. I hope I gave you guys as far as enough information to prepare y'all for tonight's discussion. I look forward to meeting y'all to talk, to go deeper. Like I said, Fumi will be there, so don't worry. But yeah, see you guys tonight, and I hope that we're able to grow together and continue to learn more as what it's like to be in the kingdom of God and what it's like to live, as God will want us to live in His kingdom. See you tonight.